Well, hello there. My name is Father Richard. I'm a Servite Friar, a member of the Order of Friar-Servants of Mary. Today I'm going to share a little brief history of the order, which you may or may not have heard of. We're a pretty old order. We've been around for almost 800 years, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about us, who we are, where we came from, and why we're still here. The Servite Order's tradition makes the year 1233, almost 800 years ago in Florence, Italy, the year of the foundation of the Order of Servants of Mary, more simply known as the Servite Friars. Much of what we know about the early days of the Servite Order is thanks to the writings of a friar named Peter of Todi, who was one of the early leaders of our order. He wrote a remarkable story document about the founding of the Servites by 7 rich cloth merchants of Florence who became known and were canonized together as a group as the 7 holy founders of the Servite Order. And I might add that that's a unique thing. In the history of the whole church, only the Servites were founded by a group, not by one founder or two, but by a group, and that group was canonized as a group, and they're known as the 7 Holy Founders. Their feast day in the calendar of the church is on February 17th. So let's go back for a moment to return to those beginning days of the order almost 800 years ago to get a glimpse into the history and culture of the time. In the early 1200s, in the Republic of Florence, big part of central Italy at the time was divided. It was violent. There were political and religious upheavals, controversies active everywhere. And in that charged and divided and divisive atmosphere, there were also many diverse kinds of religious communities and groups who were promoters of moral and religious revival and reform, and also were advocates of the peace that the area needed so desperately. They often lived a very austere life, some as individuals and others in small groups, and basically they wanted to imitate the early church's simple lifestyle, the one that is so beautifully described in the opening chapters of the Acts of the Apostles, the first book of the New Testament. The Franciscans, founded by St. Francis of Assisi, the Dominicans, founded by St. Dominic de Guzman, were examples of groups just like that who still exist today. The Servites are another example of a group like that, like the Franciscans and the Dominicans, are brother friars, still exists today. Now, in that time of religious and political upheaval in Florence, a group of 7 wealthy laymen, cloth merchants, who were already united in a prayer group honoring and focusing on the Blessed Virgin Mary, decided to abandon their families and their businesses, their wealth, to devote themselves to a communal life together, one marked by prayer, by penance, and by poverty. So those 7 men give a visible testimony to a number of things. First of all, to fraternal communion, compassion, to service, and to living a life of gospel love. And all of that contrasted tremendously with the overall chaos of the time. Now, friends, before they actually founded the Servite Order as we know it now, they established themselves together as a visible, distinct little community in a simple dwelling outside the city walls of Florence in a place called Cafaggio. One of the most important of the order's churches still today, the Santissima Annunziata, or Most Holy Annunciation, stands today on that very spot, just a scant 15-minute walk from the Duomo, the famous cathedral of Florence, and it's right at the end of a street. You look up on the signpost and it says Via dei Servi, which literally translates simply as the way or the street of the servants, the street named after our order. So to return to the history for a moment, after spending a few years at Cafaggio in that simple dwelling, those 7 men decided that they would move out of Florence to a place where they could have greater solitude and greater silence. They really were wanting to separate themselves from the chaos of the city at that time. And they went up to Monte Senario, about 12 miles outside the city of Florence, a beautiful mountaintop, about 2,500 feet above sea level. And they lived there first in primitive caves, just like hermits, and eventually built a house, a monastery in which to live the gospel and share all that they had. Again, like Caravaggio, it's a place that you could still visit today. The monastery there, which is very large now, and the beautiful grounds were built in the 1400s and beyond, but it's a great place to visit and takes us all the way back to the very, very origins of the Servite order. So here we find the seven up on Monte Scenario trying to contemplate and get closer to God. But of course, news of these holy men spread very, very quickly, and their community devoted to honoring and praising Mary, the Mother of God, drew others, and they began to grow even up there, even before they had a formal commission or a sense of a group that would become an order of the church. Well, about the year 1245, up on Monte Scenario, something marvelous and miraculous occurred on the mountain, and nothing after that was ever the same. Our Servite tradition and the story of our origins tells of the appearance of the Blessed Virgin Mary to the seven holy men. She was garbed in black as Our Lady of Sorrows, and she instructed those seven to do a number of things: to return to Florence, get off the mountain, return to Florence, to minister to and serve the suffering, divided world that they had attempted to leave behind, to found a religious order in her name and under her specific protection, to spread the good news of the gospel of her Son, and to live out the charisms of gospel love, of service, of compassion and hospitality to everyone and everything. She told the seven to call her their patroness, their protector, and honor her as the Mother of Sorrows. In addition, she showed the seven the habit of black cloth that they were to wear in honor of her seven sorrows, the very same habit that I am wearing today, 800 years later. And so, friends, in a really tiny, quick nutshell, that's how it all began. That little community of the seven holy founders of this new Servite order, Our Lady's own order, then moved back to Florence, back to Caravaggio, where they started, outside the walls of the city. And from there, the seven and their new brother companions preached God's word. They ministered in humble service to the poor and anyone who was in need. Their outreach and their charism of compassionate, loving service in the name of the Virgin Mother of God and to honor the name of Christ, her Son, began to resonate and transform the city and the society in which they lived. And that small original group, with its new members now coming and being attracted by the holiness and the service and the compassion of these men, that little group began to grow and grow and grow. And of course, now they could call themselves an order under the protection of the Blessed Virgin. She said, "You will be my servants, servants of Mary." And from that, they spread literally over the centuries to the rest of the world. Always a very small order, always the least among the brethren, so to speak, but under the protection of the Blessed Virgin from the beginning to the present day. My dear friends, my brothers, my sisters, everywhere today, I'm speaking to you as a descendant of those first fathers, the seven holy founders of the Servite order. And in that role and reality, I'm inviting all of you, wherever you are, whoever you are, to become part in some way, you can decide how, some way to become part of this wonderful order which honors Mary, the Mother of Jesus, and ministers to the church and all the world in the name of her Son. And so I invite you all, let us then as one in the Spirit of God serve the needs of all people with compassion and love as modeled for us by Mary, the Mother of Jesus, Our Lady of Sorrows. Well, that concludes our little history lesson for the day. I hope you could appreciate some of it. And you know, if you just simply go online and Google the Order of Friar-Servants of Mary or the Servites, you're going to find various websites of the friars here and there in the world, and also the many, many Servite sisters who are in the world, and even the lay order, the Order of Secular Servants of Mary. There are thousands of them around the world. And so I'd like you to follow me here on this, my YouTube channel. If you'll click that subscribe button, I would deeply appreciate it, and I hope you will enjoy it. I've got some great surprises coming up. This is just the first of what I hope will be many, 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 many videos, many opportunities for us to engage, to chat, to be together, to grow, to enjoy and love life, and to serve in the name of Christ, honoring our Blessed Mother. I'll see you next time. Take care, and God bless you all. And remember, as we Servites say, may the Blessed Virgin Mary watch over us with Christ, her Son.